My stepmom gave away my PlayStation 4 while I was away at college. So while she was on her honeymoon with her new husband, I rented out the house she thought was hers. The problem? It wasn't her house. It was mine. Let me explain. 5 years ago, my mom died of ovarian cancer at only 55. My parents had been together since college, so losing her absolutely broke my dad. He was never really the same afterward. About a year later, my dad started seeing a woman named Grace. She had actually been my mom's nurse at the hospital during her final days. At first, she seemed supportive. She would call my dad occasionally to check on him while he was grieving. But even back then, something about her felt off. I was 17 at the time, old enough to notice she seemed very interested in my dad's life and finances. Still, it wasn't my place to interfere. Within 6 months, Grace and my dad got married. My dad had been a successful banker and had built a lot of wealth over the years, but his health kept getting worse, and losing my mom took a huge toll on him. About a year later, my dad passed away at 59. When the will was read, things didn't go the way Grace expected. She received most of the money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but my dad left the house to me. It was a 5-bedroom house in a very desirable area, and I suddenly became the legal owner. Grace tried to hide it, but she was furious she didn't get the house too. At the time, I was away at college on a full scholarship, so I wasn't living there full time. Grace continued staying in the house, and I only visited occasionally when I came back to see family. Over time, she started acting more and more like the house belonged to her. Then things got worse. Only 5 months after my dad died, Grace started dating a new guy named Ivan. When I visited after graduating college, the two of them were walking around the house like they owned the place. I decided to play along. Then Grace told me something that made my blood boil. She casually mentioned she had given away my PlayStation 4 to Ivan's cousin. Her reasoning? Apparently, I was too old to play video games. I didn't even know this cousin. I had never met him. And she had given away something that belonged to me without asking. But I stayed calm because at that moment I realized something. Grace had completely forgotten the house legally belonged to me. Not her, me. A little while later, Grace told me she and Ivan were getting married. She said they were traveling to her home country for the wedding and honeymoon. Then she asked if I could watch the house while she was gone. Watch my own house? Sure. I smiled and agreed. But the moment Grace and Ivan left for their honeymoon, I got to work. First, I hired movers. Every piece of furniture and every belonging that Grace owned was packed up and moved into a storage unit. I even paid 4 months of storage in advance. Then I changed every single lock on the house. After that, I listed the property online as a rental. The house was beautiful and located in a very desirable area, so within days I had dozens of people contacting me. Eventually, I rented it out to a nice family, a lawyer, his wife who was a teacher, and their 2 kids. They signed a 1-year lease and paid the first and last month's rent. Just to be safe, I told them about my stepmom and gave my lawyer's contact information in case she tried anything. Then I moved into an apartment closer to my new job. Everything was handled legally. So, when Grace returned from her honeymoon and discovered that the house had new tenants living there, she completely lost it. Apparently, she tried to cause trouble and demand the family leave, but my lawyer shut that down immediately. The paperwork was clear-cut. The house belonged to me, and I had every legal right to rent it out. Grace had no claim to it. From what I heard afterwards, she and her new husband eventually left the country and started living off the money my dad had left her. Meanwhile, the rent from the house turned out to be more than enough to support me comfortably. And honestly, if Grace had just been respectful, I probably would have let her continue living there. but instead she acted like the house was hers. She gave away my things and treated me like a guest in my own property. So, in the end, I gave her a wedding gift she definitely wasn't expecting. Eviction. Because at the end of the day, it was my house, and I decide who gets to live in it.